Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Holistically Thriving. Today I have a very special guest that I have been stalking for over a year now. This is Kahseim Outlaw, and we met through mutual friends last year, and his Facebook page just makes me so happy. Every time I see one of his videos come up, I have to watch it. His voice calms me down. The things that he talks about, I'm like, yes, this is amazing. And to me, he is one of those people, like a genuine person that you know is not just trying to get followers on and likes and all those kinds of things. He's actually practicing what he's preaching. And every time I see his posts, I'm always like completely in agreement with what he's saying. And so when I was writing out who I wanted to be on my podcast, I always knew I was going to ask him, because to me, he is like, he's actually thriving on multiple levels. And I know a lot of my guests talk about one specific thing, but to me, he's like, he is what this podcast is about. It's about thriving on multiple levels. And so welcome to my podcast, Kahseim.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me and for the grand introduction. I'm flattered by all the niceties that you bestowed upon me. So thank you.
Of course. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, like you said, thriving on all levels. I think that's something that all of us want to do and aim for. And we wish for the people that we love and hold close to us. We want those same things for everybody. But in today's day and age, in this fast-paced society that we find ourselves in, it's very difficult to do that. So many of us get kind of this tunnel vision on this one thing, whether that's the physical body, whether that's the logical mind, whether that's the spiritual aspect of things, nutrition, all these different things come into play. And we think that if we get that one thing right, it's going to solve all our problems. But the problems never go away. And if you were to try to work on one problem, I always like to tell people it's you. Right. So you're the one thing that you need to get right. Everything else will fall into place after that. To give you a little bit of a backstory about myself, I'm a wellness educator, which means that I'm a public educator in high school. I'm also referred to as a physical educator or a gym teacher, if you will. That seems to be the most common name. But outside of that, I call myself a wellness educator because that's where really my heart and my intention is at. To teach people how to be well. It's not just about how to maintain physical, prowess or physical performance, peak physical performance. And it's not just about learning how to control or to monitor or regulate thoughts and emotions. It's really this idea of holism. When we look at things, we want to look at them holistically, otherwise we won't get a full understanding. So that's really my intention or my offering that I like to give to people, especially the younger generation. They're a little more malleable. But, looking at things with a wider scope and seeing how we play a very important role, an integral role, in all of that. I have 16 years of experience in public education, and, on a personal note, I've been using my life over the last 10 years or so as my own classroom, trying to learn more about myself, trying to manage my relationships with not only the people that are close to me, but with everyone that I meet in a kind and loving way, and watching that come full circle. Just as we met through mutual friends for reasons that we can get into later, I found that what you give out is ultimately what you get back. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, because if your awareness isn't there, you won't notice what's coming back to you. You'll only notice some of the things that are going wrong, some of the things that are upsetting you, but not all of the gifts that you're receiving because you've given so much. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is just kind of reaping the benefits of the work that I've been doing for myself and within my family, and enjoying life a lot more than I have in my previous life, right?
And I love it. You can see it. It's just like, you just feel good. When I watch you talk, I'm like,
that's the goal.
Yeah. And it's like that idea of wholeness, like you were just talking about, which is why I called it holistically thriving. It's really about the whole, the person as the whole, not just I'm just going to go on a diet, like there's just so many levels of wellness. And So why don't you tell us a little bit about one of your levels of wellness? Like, which one would you like to discuss first?
Let's see. Well, there's one that I was talking about today recently with some people, and we'll start with nutrition because that seems to be one of the big things that people grasp onto and really kind of, I don't want to say over contemplate, but spend a lot of energy in that zone thinking that that's going to solve everything. Now, I will tell you that if you're looking for a place to start, nutrition is a great place. I mean, what's one thing that we all do multiple times a day, at least 3 times a day for most people, maybe even more, is we eat. We fuel ourselves constantly. And we think that by adding more of the good, then we're going to feel better and we're going to do better. Now, in some instances, that's the case. Some of us need like a hard adjustment. We've been kind of living unconsciously, running off of the programs that our parents gave us and their parents gave them, and old conventional wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So for many of us, kind of taking all of the good things that we're hearing about and reading about and seeing online and implementing those things, we're going to find some real benefit. But at some point, we reach a point of diminishing returns. And it's not just always about eating more fruits and eating more vegetables, because you get to a point where you have to decide, am I doing too much? Am I creating some sort of anxiety around the food that I eat? Am I eliminating too much? It becomes this kind of psychosis, if you will, or neurosis about food that kind of hinders us. So for me, I like to simplify things 100%. I've been a vegan for over 7 years. I don't use any animal products in my diet or in my lifestyle whatsoever, if I'm aware of it and if I can help it.
Yep.
And that has helped guide many of the nutritional decisions that I've made. So it started off back in 2015, where I just started a New Year's challenge, like most people. They do something called Veganuary, where you try to go vegan for just the first month. And so I did that. I went on an all raw diet for about 2 weeks. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, I was miserable. I had low energy. I was constantly aggravated and irritable. And I was the only person that was doing this in my family. So people are still eating their prime ribs and their cheeseburgers and all these things. And I'm sitting over here with a big bowl of salad and a handful of cashews and looking at them like, oh, man, you're not doing it right, right? So what I did was I added some more cooked grains and some cooked vegetables and some other things to the program. And I found that I could thrive on that. And when I did that over the course of the next couple of months, I found that there was a spiritual component to that. And there was something that made me look at all life differently. And if I could fuel my body in an optimal way without hindering someone else's ability to enjoy their life, why not go for it? So 7 years later, here I am. Now, along the way, I've learned a lot of different nutritional tips. I don't want to call them hacks. I just want to call them good decisions that have helped me, be successful on this. Because a lot of people will start a diet and, they call it the yo-yo diet. You try it, one day you're up, the next day you're down, and you end up failing and resorting back to some of the non-serving habits that we had before. So, what do I do now? It's a fruit dominant diet. I make sure that most of my diet comes from raw, uncooked fruits and vegetables. I do grains. I try not to go too heavy on those things because, when we look at food is life. And if we're eating live foods, we're getting live enzymes that are helping us digest and process and eliminate. But when we're eating cooked foods that are really inert, they don't have any live energy or live enzymes in them, it'll fill us up. It'll make us feel comfortable, feel good, feel satiated sometimes. But ultimately, we want to keep this energy flowing through us. So that's kind of my take on nutrition at the moment.
For sure. I love it. That's so true about eating. People say, eat your colors, right? And that just going along the same lines of just eating real live food, and we'll become vibrant by eating live food. And I've been plant-based now for, I think, maybe 5 years. And I've slowly introduced back just a few pieces of fish, like once a month. But I've always felt really good being plant-based. You eat a salad and you color it with all these different veggies and fruits, and people think I'm weird that I put fruit in my salad. I'm like, what do you mean? Fruit and salad is the best.
It really is. We're designed to find it in nature. We're designed to extract it or harvest it. And, by the way it tastes, I've never had a bad piece of fruit, although grapefruit is not my favorite, but I'll still eat it, you know?
For sure. I remember back in the day, my grandfather would serve it to me with like this fancy little fork and a bunch of powdered sugar. That was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, hey, bless his soul.
I know. It's funny, like the things you know now, and you look back at your childhood and you're like you were saying before about how your family teaches you how to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then you kind of go through your own little, metamorphosis of like, actually, I don't want to eat like this. I want to eat like this. And
Yeah, and it's very, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's very situational too, because what diet works for us here in New England is not going to work for somebody who lives in the Arctic Circle or somebody who lives in the tropics. So we have to adapt to our environment and our lifestyle and for what's around us. If we eat based on our environment and what's available to us, I think our allergies would go down, our immune systems would be built up stronger because we're closer to the environment that we live in.
for sure.
Again, when I first started off, I always, and I still get caught up in this. I try to eat like I live in Costa Rica, but in the winter in Connecticut, that's not going to work out too well. My body requires different things to sustain itself. So until I get into the tropics, I gotta, diversify a little bit.
Yep, same. Every time I see like a raw vegan person on Instagram, they have these pictures of beautiful fruits, and I'm like, I don't have access to that here. So,
Yeah, I know.
but you got to do what makes you feel good, right? And what makes your body
Mhm.
feel good. And I've gotten into so many talks with people who are, the complete opposite end of plant-based, and they don't understand how I can eat like this. And I'm like, because it makes me feel good. Like everybody
Yeah.
is different, and if you're really in tune with your body, you'll be able to figure out what makes your body feel good, So
Amen.
I'm glad you found something that makes you feel good.
Yeah, for real.
Cool. Well, that's a little bit about nutrition. What about, tell us about your routine. Like, do you have a routine?
I suppose I do. It's probably on autopilot at this moment, but let's take you through a regular day, right? So in the morning, I try to get up as early as I can, and there were times in my life when I would make sure I got up at 4:30 or I make sure I got up at 5 o'clock, and I was very disciplined with it. And to this day, I still kind of am, but I have to realize when it's not working. If I'm dragging at 10 o'clock because I've been up since 4:30, then that means I'm probably not getting the rest that I really, really need. So my sleep quota has gotten somewhere around 7 hours, depending on my activity level. So as long as I'm somewhere close to that, I'm feeling pretty good. But needless to say, I try to get up as early as I can. If I can beat the sun, that's great. That allows me to get in my meditation practice and my yoga practice kind of in that twilight zone, which has a lot of different spiritual connotations to it as well. But hey, I'm up early. I have a meditation practice that I've been doing for probably the past 10 years. That's the mark, about a decade.
Nice.
I learned that from Sadhguru and the Isha Foundation. I did an inner engineering program back in 2014, and it made a huge impact on me. It gave me a 21-minute practice that I do every single day, sometimes twice a day. And it focuses on the breath work. It focuses on the spiritual component where I'm just aligning myself with the world around me. And it's really helped. It's helped to center and balance me and really start not only my day, but every day, every moment with kind of a beginner's mind. And that's one thing, and I'm glad we're talking on this, but your spirituality, your connection to something greater than yourself is probably the most important thing. And I say probably because I'm kind of walking a line here, but it is. I'll dare to say that it is, because we are much more than what we see on the screen. We are much more than what we feel with our hands. We are much more than what we take in with our senses.
Mhm.
And if we can acknowledge that and sit in that and get comfortable in that, then all these little problems, all these little triggers, all these little things that happen to us in this human form, they don't really seem so big. So whether that's with meditation, whether that's with prayer, with silence, there's different contemplative practices that you can tap into. But finding one that really works for you and lifts you up and fills you with gratitude is super important. So I make sure I start my day with that. There was a couple of weeks ago, I put out a meme that said, you wouldn't think about leaving the house without brushing your teeth, but brushing our mind is equally as important, probably more important, but meditation is the tool to do that.
For sure.
So that's really the start to my day. And without kind of going through all the intricacies, it starts by just having a great attitude, coming out of my meditation, taking the time to move through my day slowly, not rushing, not feeling like I'm against the clock, and just, thinking about my relationship to everything and every person that I come into contact with. From when my son and my wife wake up in the morning, if they happen to be up as early as I am, I greet them with love and compassion. I don't hold on to the things of yesterday. And that then allows them to return the love and compassion that I want. So it's this mirroring effect. When I work with students and clients, it's giving them the same thing that I want to get. And then it comes right back to me full circle. So it's really been an eye-opening process for me. The power of gratitude, the power of being centered and still and grounded. And I don't know if that answers a lot of questions for your viewers or for yourself about why I am the way that I am, but it's really just immense gratitude for the opportunity to be here. This life, this time, this gift that we have to share. It's just a beautiful thing.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's what we need, like more gentleness, more compassion, people dropping their egos and just, waking up and loving each other and forgetting about the stupid argument you had yesterday. And it takes a lot of inner work and, to be able to center yourself into that gratitude and just, everything you're saying, it just makes so much sense. And I know it's hard for people, like when you're talking about meditation, can you tell someone how, because this is the thing I hear the most is how do I calm my mind? How do I, block out the thoughts? So maybe you can share when you have your 21-minute practice, what you do.
Yeah. So it's a Kriya, which is an action. So what I'm doing during this meditative process, it's very structured and it has things that I do. There's some movement into it. There's some breath work. There's some mantra chanting. So while I'm focusing my logical mind on that, it's very difficult for random thoughts to sneak in because I have a format. So for those people who find trouble sitting in stillness because they have a lot of ruminating thoughts coming in, maybe there's a lot of undealt with traumas and triggers and things that are going off, try to focus on your breath, right? If you can just sit for 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and focus on your breathing, the inhalation, the exhalation, in and out of the nose, slowing that down, then that allows you to take those logical thoughts and focus them directly on an action. Because when you're just sitting there, not knowing what to do, waiting for something to come to you, like waiting is something that many people can't do. When you're at a bus stop, you're waiting to get waited on at a restaurant, you are waiting for anything. The first inclination is to pick something up and to start scrolling through something to occupy the mind. Our mind is something that is there to detect things, detect sensations, detect differences, contrast. And when it's left to its own devices and it doesn't have anything to do, it's going to start searching. And it might search your memory, it might search your environment, and it's going to find something. And when it does, it's just going to latch onto that and keep going. So we want to give it something to do. And the breath is one of the greatest tools that we can tap into to center ourselves, ground ourselves, and make ourselves feel a little better. So the advice to meditate, right? Just don't worry about what someone else told you. Don't worry about what your preconceived notions are of what it means to meditate. Just sit in stillness as still as you can for as long as you can. If you can't sit for 30 seconds, sit for 30 minutes. That's what one of my teachers told me. But yeah, don't beat yourself up, because that inner judge will come in with that gavel and start beating on you. And then it's going to take you right out of your meditation and you're not going to get anything from it. So if it's only a few seconds, consistency is more important than duration. So every day when you wake up, sit down, same spot, same time, close your eyes, see how long you can sit. And then once you come out of it, go about your day. And then the next morning you meet right that same place and do it all over again.
For sure. And it is a practice, right? Literally,
yeah.
It's called a meditation practice. So you have to, the first day you might sit down and you might be able to concentrate for 5 seconds and then you have a thought come in, but the next day it might be 30 seconds,
Yes.
And when people tell me that their vision of meditation, because of everything we see in the media, is you sit down and you go, And so I think it's really interesting to hear about what other people do for their practices. And I love that you mantra, that's just like with breath work too, you're focusing on something else other than just trying to clear your mind of thoughts. So
yes.
I like mantras.
Yeah. And a lot a lot of people feel like they need to go into isolation or they need to do this by themselves, but you can create a community of meditators that when you come together, that's a very powerful force because you have intention, you have compassion, you have love, and you have focus on one thing, healing. And if you can do that together, then it makes it much more powerful. This is probably a good segue to talk about a book that I recently wrote, and I got it right behind me. Yay!
Yeah.
The book is called We Are Enough, and it's kind of, I don't know if the lighting is in here, but you can kind of see that there.
Yep.
It's available on Amazon, so if you just type in We Are Enough book, you'll find it.
Yep.
And it came from a meditation. I took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course back in 2016, an 8-week course, and the meditation that we led with didn't have a name, it didn't have an author, but my teacher at the time would have us do it every single time. So if you can imagine 40 adults who don't meditate and are coming in with all different walks of life and different experiences, but all looking for healing, would come in and do this together, it was so powerful.
Wow.
People would leave really refreshed. Some people would, be drenched in tears because of it, because it really centers you and lets you know that who you are, what you do, what you have, all of that is enough.
Yep.
So over the course of practicing meditation and becoming a facilitator, I was using this meditation over and over again. And I found that it was really powerful for everybody that I used it with. So one day I started adding to it. I started just writing down a little script. And within a few minutes, believe it or not, I came up with the script and I said, I think I just wrote a children's book. Now, at the time, I thought of it as a children's book, but the more I fleshed it out and created it, I noticed that it's really a book for all of us, for all ages, because the message is clear. What I have is enough. What I do is enough. What I am is enough. I am here and I am alive, and that is enough. And I turned that into a 3-part kind of mantra where it goes from the I, and then it goes to the you, and then it goes to we. And, when you think about it, we're all here on this planet. We all came from the same source. There's nobody that came from another planet here. So we're all from this place. This is our home. We're one big family. And we are enough. When we do our best and we kind of extend our humanity to one another, we're at our best. And I think if we can reflect on that over and over again, and make it quote unquote normal or make it fashionable, make it sexy, then we can really do some amazing things in this world. So that was the aim of this book. It's gotten some great acclaim. It's got some great reviews, and I like to share it with anybody that I can. And it also has the meditation in it. So at the end of the book, I have the script in here written out, so people have a step-by-step tutorial on how to meditate. So if you're someone who's looking for a meditative practice, you don't know where to start, this can be a handy tutorial for you.
Awesome. And people can go find that on Amazon, right?
Yeah, you can find that on Amazon. You just type in We Are Enough book and it'll be right there. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my illustrator, Amanda Dokas, who did some really wonderful illustrations in here that are captivating for readers of all ages. She's a former student of mine, and she's a wonderful artist and a beautiful human being. And I couldn't be happier with our end product.
Oh, that's so nice. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. And I know people are loving it. I see people talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
And when you were talking too about like We Are Enough, I was thinking about how, I don't know about you, but I know that mothers, especially new mothers, often feel like they are not enough. And they are doing a million things for their baby, for their family, and a lot of times when I sit with mothers, especially like of infants, and I look at someone and I say, you're doing a great job. And then usually like tears. It's happened to me multiple times. Because we all just don't feel like we're doing enough or we are enough. And so I think I love that message. Whoa. Okay, we're good.
Great catch, Steph.
Well, actually was a pretty good catch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to dovetail on what you were just saying, I mean, when a new life comes into your life and you have this new responsibility, all of the focus goes right there. And for many of us who are looking for control or authority over our lives, and maybe we feel like we don't have that, when we get that opportunity, it's a natural inclination to say, all right, I'm going to do every single thing I possibly can for this new life that's here, that's helpless, that's in my control, in my what's the word I'm looking for? My care. Yeah, not my control, my care. And when you do that, you can find that it's so easy to disregard yourself. I'm I'm a nobody. This is my everything. Well, you are your everything. You need to hold yourself in the same character, in the same way that you hold that beautiful, brand new life that you have in front of you. Because you've heard this before, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're not energizing yourself, replenishing yourself, taking care of yourself, then how can you be at your best taking care of others? And that's been kind of used as a slogan these days, or as a catchphrase. Self-care. It's become widely accepted and widely focused on. But we don't want to lose sight of that. We don't want to lose sight that we are our first baby, and we have to take care of ourselves more than anything else.
For sure. And that's very hard to do as a new mom.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, now that I know these kinds of things, that I know my daughter's 3 now, that
Mm-hmm.
time I have a child, I am definitely going to be making sure I schedule time for self-care, because, and now I'm a postpartum doula so that I can help other women so that they can have their own time for self-care. And,
Yes.
like, I can, when someone asks me, like, well, what does a postpartum doula do? I'm like, I take care of the mom, because no one's taking care of the mom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
You're providing a invaluable service to those moms and to the whole family, because once you touch their lives, that compassion and that love will bleed into their entire family and help heal a lot of relationships.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. I had that in mind. I had this vision of newborns getting this read to them at night by their parents, and the parents really treating this as a meditation for themselves, because even though that newborn infant can't understand the words logically, they can feel the love, they can feel the healing. And then when they're old enough to read this to their parents, oh, can you imagine the waterworks that are going to happen then?
It'll be like that I Love You More book. What is that book? You know what I'm talking about? Everybody. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. Aw, that's awesome. Tell us about your son. How old is your son?
My son is 8, and there's the word guru comes to mind when I think of him, and it's gotten to be a 4-letter word. Nobody likes to use it anymore these days, but the actual translation of the word is the dispeller of darkness, someone who can shine light on the very important things in life. And he has been that for me since I knew that he was coming. So when I found out that my wife was pregnant, and she's a doula, by the way, as well. When I found out that she was pregnant, I immediately had this mirror put in front of me. And he wasn't even there yet. I didn't even know what it meant to be a dad, but I immediately had this mirror pop up, and I said, okay, I got to do some real assessing here. I got to do some real evaluation on who this guy is, because there's going to be somebody looking at me pretty soon, figuring out how to do this thing called being a man, being a father, being a human in this life. So that's where, this decade ago that I'm talking about, I really started some steps to really transform myself into the person that I was meant to be. And I'm not going to say that I was this terrible person before, but I was largely unconscious. Yep. And now that I have had this light shined on all the different areas of my life, I've been able to make some really great improvements. So my son Atlas, who's 8 years old, he's 8.5, he'll tell you, is just the light of my life and my wife's life. And it's just a constant reminder that we are being watched, we are being learned from, we are being absorbed in all ways. The words that we say, the love and that we share with each other as parents is reflected in how he handles himself and his relationships. We're his first teachers, and that's something that we take to heart. And it feels really good to be a parent. I never thought of myself as being one. I've always been good with kids, and there's a reason for that. And I think I finally found my calling with being his mentor in this life.
Oh, that's awesome. So you swing more towards like gentle parenting then, right?
I guess I haven't really looked into too many of the parenting styles. It's definitely not aggressive or
right
or anything by any means, but we let him kind of run the show. Not to say that there's not boundaries and there's not things that we try to advise him on, but I really treat him just like a younger version of myself. And I try to be the person that I know and remember that I wanted when I was his age. So with that as a guiding principle, it becomes really, really easy.
I love it. That's awesome. And he's homeschooled, right?
He is. He's been homeschooled since day one. So he doesn't know anything different, but we tell him all the time, if you ever feel the inclination where you want to try out what other kids are doing, if you want to go to school, if you want to get in that kind of system, you can definitely do that. So I'm just waiting for one day when he's like, Dad, I want to jump on that bus and head to that building. I'm all right, go ahead. And knowing that he can always change his mind and he can always come back to what we're doing. But it seems to be working really, really well for all of us. And, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Does he help you cook?
He does. He does. I try to keep him in the kitchen as much as I can, but he's always asking to help. Can I help? Can I chop? Can I do this? Can I do that? So I try to give him the onus. There's been a great practice that someone made me aware of where one night a week you give your child the opportunity to make dinner for the family. Now you might want to, you might want to have a backup dinner plan just in case things go south, but it gives them that opportunity to take responsibility. And if it doesn't come out right, well, how can we make things different? Can we help you with this to make it more successful next time? And it becomes this, just like the meditation community, it becomes this culinary community inside the house that empowers children to learn one of the most valuable skills ever, how to cook, how to prepare food, how to nourish themselves.
Awesome.
So, yes.
Oh, I love that. I just bought Sophie a little like training knife.
Yay.
She's 3, but I'm like, all right, come on, let's do it. She always wants to cook with me. So I'll help her out a little bit.
It's never too early to start. You're doing great things, Steph.
For sure. Thanks. Yeah.
You're welcome.
She's pretty cute. And she always asks me, she's like, "What can I help you cook?" I'm like, sure. So it was a big step when I bought a knife. I was like, all right, we're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and on the topic of cooking and nutrition, I mean, it tends to come back to that because, like I said, it's something all of us are well aware of and the benefits. And if we can make most of our food or most of our fuel intake, if it can come from a raw standpoint, meaning that it doesn't need to be prepared as much, it doesn't need to be cooked, it doesn't need to be kind of tampered with in many ways, it makes it not only easier on the preparation side, but a lot of those nutrients and live enzymes will get in. And when we're talking about a developing child, whether that's in the womb or whether that's 3 years old or whether that's 8 years old, we want to give those children the most living nutrition that we can give them, because that's going to help facilitate all of the brain development, all of the neurological development, all of the emotional and mental regulatory processes that they need to manage themselves in this world. They're going to get the vitamins and the minerals and the enzymes that are going to allow them to do that. So there's someone I always think about when I talk about this is Dr. Mark Hyman, and he's got a podcast called The Doctor's Pharmacy. And if you follow any of his work, he'll kind of echo the same sentiment that we want to get these live foods and these minerals and these nutrients in as quickly as we can and consistently as we can, because that's going to help fortify us and be better humans all the way around.
For sure. I love when you post pictures of food and it's just so simple, but it's beautiful and colorful and raw most of the time. And and I have a theory too that about, and this is not at all to shame any woman on what she eats during her pregnancy, but I was fully plant-based and I had just every day a giant 32 ounces of fresh juice that I made, smoothie full of fruits and veggies, and then just very, very healthy diet. And I swear that's one of the reasons why Sophie is just like, she is so bright. Everybody that meets her is like, this kid is like, how is she like this? And I'm like, I think
she's been running on, she's been running on high octane fuel ever since inception. So there's something to be said about that.
For sure. Absolutely. Is your wife also plant-based?
Yes. So I was the one who facilitated it, and she jumped on shortly after that. But I think with just kind of being inundated with the information that I was bringing home, with the practices that I was doing, and also, like I said before, making things sexy, making them appealing. Yeah. So the videos and the photos and things that I put on social media, that's exactly what it is. I don't really doctor it up to look any different way. And a lot of times people say, oh, you need to post more, you need to do this and that. Well, what I'll do is I'll make a meal, and when I look at it, if I'm in awe of that meal and it just looks so good on a plate, I'm like, hey, I got to share this. And that's when it comes out. Adding more colors to your plates, textures, tastes, all these different savory things that we can do will make it appealing. And there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, I can never go vegan and I can never do this. They're thinking a lot about these plant-based alternatives, which don't really taste like the real thing. Right. Although in this day and age, technology is kind of catching up. So a lot of people can't tell the difference, but it's not about finding an alternative. to the things that we become used to eating. It's about finding out what we should have been eating from day one and figuring out a way to do that joyfully. If we can do that in a way where we love it and we want to do it, oh, that's the sweet spot.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was just thinking about, I was at a party the other day and I brought this beautiful giant bowl of like rice and beans and fresh guac and fresh salsa. And that's just like such an easy thing to make for a party. And everyone always loves it. And, you know, it's totally plant-based. And it was just so funny to me how almost every single woman in the room was like, oh my God, how did you make this? This is amazing. And I just think it's like, that always makes me giggle because I'm like, it's so easy. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And like, you can keep it simple and you don't have to, you know, feel like it's so difficult to eat fresh, healthy food. Like, you know, and then when people say like, oh man, everything's so expensive at the grocery store. And I'm like, well, where are you spending your money? Are you spending it on like prepackaged things that are like, you know, $10 for 2 little servings of something, you know? And it's all about your mindset and where your perspective is of like, you know, what am I going to spend the money on?
Yeah. I mean, everything is going up. We're kind of seeing that now. So to pick one thing and say, oh, that's too expensive. Well, when we really take an analysis of our budget and where we're putting our money, we might find that a lot of it is going towards the chips, the cookies, the chocolates, the things like that. If we can redirect or divert that funding to something that's going to help our health and up level us, then we definitely want to do that. We don't want to wait too long.
For sure. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about, tell me about the cold thing that you do. You jump. Like I always see videos, I'm like, what is he doing? It's so cold.
Yeah, the cold water immersion. That's another thing that started off kind of as a challenge, and then it just became a part of me where, you know, this is a little disclaimer, I guess, a little backstory for your viewers, but I've always been somebody who liked to challenge myself. You know, when I was young, I was very competitive in sports and other activities, and I never lost that. But what I did lose were friends who enjoyed being in those competitive realms. So I had to kind of do it with myself. So just like the whole plant-based diet, which started off as a challenge and then turned into a lifestyle, it's the same thing with the cold. It's something that I hate. I can't stand the cold, first of all. And a lot of people don't think that that's true because I do these plunges, but I can't stand being cold. There's nothing worse in my experience than that. And when I realized that and really sat with that, I said, well, maybe that's the thing that I need to run towards and figure out more about myself. And lo and behold, it has. When you are submerged in cold water for an extended period of time, the only thing that your mind is thinking about is getting out. And if you can stay in there while that's happening, then you notice that all of those trivial thoughts and all of those problems that you have in life tend to disappear. You can't even find them. Even when you get out of the water, right? You're still focused on that survival mentality. How am I going to get warm? I need something warm to drink. How can I get out of this cold? So during that time, let's say you spend 2 minutes in the water and then it takes you another 10 minutes to get back into your car or into your house or whatever it is. And then it takes you probably another 3 to 4 hours to warm up fully, okay, depending on the coldness of the water. So you've got a good chunk of your day where you're not, you know, preoccupied with the problems in your relationships, with the lack of money, with the bills, with, you know, your coworkers, your mother-in-law, whatever it might be. You're not focused on any of those things. And that is such a great rest. So by doing that consistently, sometimes I would do it every day. Sometimes I just do it once a week. That seems to be the good quota for me, is once a week. It really resets my nervous system. It makes me more resilient and a lot more grateful, right? When I'm in my office or I'm in my home and I'm comfortable, I think back about being in that water. I'm like, that sucked. And I don't want to go back to that. So I should really appreciate where I'm at right now. And yeah, and that's not even to mention the physical benefits of it. You know, the cardiovascular benefits, the circulatory benefits, the anti-inflammatory benefits, joint pain, back pain, all of that disappears when you get in water that's, you know, I'm not even sure the degree where we would mark it, but if it's cold enough where you want to jump right out, that's pretty good. And for most people who want to get into that or are curious about it, you can do this with just a cold shower. When you wake up in the morning, you're feeling a little groggy, you're feeling like you want to climb back in bed, go in the shower, turn it all the way cold and just turn it on and sit in there. Focus on your breathing. You're not going to die. You're not going to get harmed in any way. But what you are going to do is notice a stress response. this hyperventilation, the shivering, you want to get out. But if you can sit in there, turn your body a couple of seconds, turn the other way a couple of seconds, and then just have a nice shower, wash yourself up and get out. It's better than any cup of coffee that you can imagine.
That's awesome.
You'll be awake. You'll be awake for sure.
For the last couple of months, I've been doing a cold shower at the end of my shower, not as my whole shower.
Yeah.
But I like dance when it gets really cold. I'm like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah, that's recommended to a lot of people. You take your nice warm shower, right? And then at the end for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes seems to be the mark. You turn it down, you sit in there, you breathe, and then you get out and start your day.
Yep. And that's when I wash my face too, is when it's like really cold water, and I'll wash my face and it's like, oh, okay, I'm awake.
Yeah. And if you're worried about skin issues, they tend to disappear with cold water. There's a lot of different hormones that get activated to help your immune function. So there's a lot of benefits. And like I said, if you're a morning person or if you're not a morning person, it'll definitely wake you up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yeah. Well, we heard about your relationship with your son. Can you share a little bit about your relationship with your wife? Like, how long have you guys been together?
Ooh, wow, this is a long one. How much time you got? We're only a month apart. We were born in the same town. We grew up in the same town, went to the same school systems. We met when we were really young because her father was dating someone who worked with my mom. So we actually went on a date to the movies when we were probably 5 years old. And yeah, and then we met again in middle school. We went to the same middle school, and then we went to high school together, and then we went to college together. And throughout that tenure, we had some little romantic adventures. We tried to, connect, and we weren't really either of us in a place where we could recognize the beauty in one another, I don't think. But we always had this connection. We were always friends. We were always friendly. And we always had this desire to be close. And then let's see, it's 2022. So 20 years ago, we got together, and that we've been together ever since, romantically and in a friendship and a beautiful relationship with one another that I can't be more satisfied with and happy with and excited about. Yeah, we've been married for 12 years. We just celebrated our 12-year wedding anniversary a couple months ago. Yeah. And each day is an adventure. And we what's the word I'm looking for? We complement each other. We complement each other very, very well. It's always a challenge, but at the foundation is this unquestionable love for one another. And no matter what we go through, whether it's a disagreement, I won't even call it an argument, a misunderstanding, we always have this layer of security underneath that we can come back to. And once we connect there, then everything else dissipates. So her name's Chrissy, and she's on social media too, not as much as me, but she tends to be on the positive side of things and always put out, things about our relationship and our son that is loving and heartfelt. So I'm grateful for her.
You guys are like such a beautiful little family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Every time I see pictures, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the gifts that we can offer collectively to the world is show people that no matter what you're going through, you can cultivate a safe, supportive network inside of your family. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that is to be honest, is to forgive, and to show your gratitude for one another. Because if you do those three things, there's really nothing that can get in the way. And a lot of us hold on to some traumas and some things from the past, whether it's with a brother, sister, mother, father, spouse, whatever it might be. Yeah. And if we don't let those things go, they tend to haunt us. So letting go, surrendering.
For sure. All the surrender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys have like someone that takes care of Atlas so you guys can get alone and like go somewhere?
So we've got a big network of friends with a lot of kids. So we feel very confident if we want to get away. My parents are not far away too, and he's our only child, and so they're always willing to take him on. I'm sure if he said he wanted to live with them, they'd be like, yeah, come on over, done. So we're very fortunate to have childcare in that respect. But the other thing too is we try to bring him with us wherever we go. Mm-hmm. We want him to have a front row seat in our relationship and see us showing each other love and affection and communication. And we also want to bring him with us on these excursions and adventures that we have, so he can then have these memories and know how to engage and interact when it's time for him to form relationships of his own.
For sure. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Oh, that's like you guys are giving him such a strong foundation of who he is and to love himself and what a healthy relationship looks like. That's really beautiful. That's awesome.
Thank you. There's three tenets that I've tried to live by ever since he's been here, and that's safety, support, and love. So first, letting him know that he's safe wherever he is. He's got us. We're there as his guardians. That he's supported in anything that he wants to do, anything that he's excited about. We're his biggest cheerleaders, and ultimately love. That he always has this envelope of love where he can tuck himself into and feel safe and supported.
Yeah. So you're definitely a gentle parent.
Yeah.
You fall under that category.
I tattoo it on the arm.
That is the epitome of gentle parenting.
Beautiful. And that's me.
Cool.
That's me.
Well, I ask everybody to share a little bit about, is there some area of your life that you are working on right now that you feel like needs some work?
Yes. It is the feeling of abundance, the feeling that I have every single thing that I need to do whatever it is that I want. And logically, I can tell myself that, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. You know, I've read enough and I've listened to enough great minds and great influential speakers and authors to know that that is the truth, that the universe is conspiring in my greatest good. But, you know, boots on the ground as a human being here, navigating relationships and finances and all these things, sometimes we forget. So it's this constant reminder that I have everything that I need, that I don't need to wait for another certification, for another, you know, pat on the back, for some other affirmation from outside of me to do the things that I came here to do. And, you know, sometimes we get caught up in systems, whether that's the educational system or the financial system or the business sector, whatever it might be. And if you want to be a part of that, you have to toe the line and you have to do certain things so that you're supported. But, you know, I'm finding more and more that when I step into my truth, speak authentically and genuinely with compassion, of course, that all things that I need are provided to me. And, you know, I'm just looking to keep on that path and keep improving in that kind of awareness. And I know that success is not only right around the corner, but it's already here.
For sure. Feeling like it's already here is so important. That goes with your gratitude thing too, of just always focusing on the gratitude and just knowing and trusting. Trust is so hard.
It is.
Trust.
It is.
Like, please, I trust you, but please.
Yes. Don't disappoint me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course that always goes along with too, like you trust, but also trusting that whatever the experience is right now is for a reason, even if it's negative. So I know sometimes it feels like I trust you, but then something happens and I'm like what just happened?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like to, I like to let people know, you know, so when I look at my life, I feel very blessed. I don't feel like I've had a very difficult life at all. And sometimes I feel guilty even saying that my life is really easy. But it's not that I've had an experience without kind of troubles or worries or pains or anything or challenges. But I found out that no matter what has happened to me, I've made it through and I'm better for it. And I think if people could look at their life and say, you know what, no matter where they are right now, no matter what they're doing, what they're dealing with, whatever challenges or obstacles are in front of them, they need to realize that there have been many before that they've made it through. And they've probably done so with remarkable fashion, but haven't really realized it. So this is just another step on the path. This is just another thing that we have to figure out. We have to draw on support of the people that are around us and that care for us, and realize that we have everything that we need to get through it. And there's going to be something else after that. So learn to enjoy the process, be willing to learn from it, be willing to forgive yourself for making mistakes, and move forward with compassion for yourself and everybody involved.
Compassion for yourself. That is so important. I actually had that in my other space. I had a picture that said something about like having compassion for yourself. You need to have compassion for yourself more than, you know, anyone else, especially because people who are empaths, we always like focus on the other people, and, you know, we have so much compassion for them, but it's like, what about yourself? Do you give yourself that compassion?
Yeah. Seeing yourself in others and seeing others in yourself, you know.
I love how you keep talking about the mirror too, is that, what are you mirroring to your child, to your relationships, to anybody outside? Like, I noticed that when I'm really like, I'm feeling really good and I'm like feeling really good about self-love, I notice then I'm seeing it from other people too. Like, people are holding the door for me. And, it's like, you just see it more once you're living in that space. And I forgot why I just said that. There was a reason, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, accepting what you see is really important too. When you look in the mirror, it's easy to find blemishes and then try to fix it or explain it away. But just sitting there with mindfulness, observing and noticing and saying, you know what, I accept what's happening right now. This is impermanent. This life is impermanent. So this pimple is impermanent. This blemish is impermanent, right? So all these things that we judge ourselves about, especially on a physical level, because that's the most kind of potent thing for us. We need to accept it, allow it to work itself out, and show it some love. And you know what? Before you know it, you'll be on to something else. So don't spend too much time focusing on the imperfections of it all.
I love it. Well, that was beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody?
Well, I'd like to tell all of your viewers and everybody that's going to see this in infinity that you are more powerful than you can possibly imagine. You have the ability. Yeah, you have the ability to create this beautiful life experience that you came here to enjoy. So when you think of yourself as a human on this planet, you weren't always here, and you're not always going to be here in this physical form. So while you're here, treat it like a vacation. Enjoy it, learn from it, share your love, share your smile with everybody that'll be open to it, and enjoy the ride. But don't give away your power. You can create a beautiful life for yourself, no matter how or where you do it. If you are interested in what I'm doing, right? I'm all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those things, Twitter. I already talked about the book on Amazon, We Are Enough. I wish I had better lighting in here. You'd be able to see it.
Perfect.
And my website is KahseimOutlaw.com. It's my first and last name.com. And I've got to update it a little bit and spruce it up, but it's a way to get in contact with me. And I love having conversations like this, Stephanie. So bless your soul for inviting me to be on your podcast and sharing a little bit of who I am with your audience.
Oh, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your insight. We touched on so many topics, and I'm sure that everybody is going to love this podcast today.
I hope so.
All right. Well, I hope you all go get in touch, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.
All right.
Namaste.